winter, I got a ton of emails from guys that have the Shelby GT350. I'm probably one of the only ones that's driving it through some really harsh winter conditions. We're going into the 4th month of winter in New York, and I just want to do a video and let you guys know some really important things on how this car reacts in sub-freezing temps, in the snow. Just a lot of stuff I'm going to talk about in this video. But before we get started, there's 2 things that I feel are mandatory that you have to have, whether you have a GT350 or any sports car that doesn't have a spare tire. You have to get yourself a real professional tire gauge, not the pencil gauge that you get at the gas station. You got to get a real gauge because the temperatures do drop regularly in the winter because the temperatures are all over the place. Another important thing you guys need, and I swear by this, is a safety seal tire plug kit. Let me just show you guys. Okay, this is a professional tire plug kit. Do not rely on the air compressor and the sealant in the trunk. That is not going to get you out of a jam. It's not going to save the day. This is a professional kit that all the tire repair shops and rim repair shops in my area use, and I found it online and I picked it up. This is not the cheap stuff you're going to get in your local Napa or auto parts store. This is the real deal. You guys could actually pick this stuff up on Amazon as well. It's like 50-60 bucks for the kit, and I tell you right now, the first time you need it, you're going to thank yourself for spending the money. It comes with everything here, and I usually put a tire crayon in the kit just in case if you have to pull something out, you want to mark it. But this is a must-have. You got to have a professional safety seal kit, and you got to have professional tire pressure gauge. So we're going to let the car warm up, and I'm going to strap the camera inside. I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of the nuances and how this car reacts in the winter.
She left and turned away. Don't care for what people say.
Hey guys, we're back. Got the car finally warmed up. I just want to give you guys, I got a ton of emails every month since I tell everyone that I'm driving this car full time, and now we're going into the 4th month of a horrible New York winter. Like I said in the beginning of the video, 2 of the most mandatory things that you're going to need, whether you have a Shelby, a Porsche, a BMW, a Vet, if you're going to drive any of these cars in the winter and you don't have a spare, do not rely on the inflator kit that comes with the car. You got to get a professional tire pressure gauge, and you got to get the safety plug kit that I showed you in the beginning. I'll put a link to that stuff. You could buy it through Jegs, through Summit, and Amazon every now and then sometimes has those safety seal kits. So that's just mandatory, whether you're going to need it or maybe you're driving by one day and somebody's broken down and they don't know what to do. You could save the day for somebody in about 10 to 15 minutes. So I highly suggest you get something like that and keep it in the trunk of your car. If you guys can see by the camera, the roads are destroyed. This winter has annihilated the roads around here. So one of the things I want to talk about, to drive this car in the winter, of course, you're going to need winter tires. And I had the Pirelli Soto Zeros, and I think they're outstanding. They're doing a great job so far. I run the tire pressure when it's cold at 34 all the way around, okay? And the reason I do that is because the temperatures are fluctuating so badly every other day. It's, you know, one day it could be 35, then it could go up to 45, and then it could be below 15. So I check my tire pressure usually every other day, always before I leave the house or regardless. Don't rely on the TPMS sensors to give you an accurate reading. That's just never going to be the case. Get the gauge and take a couple of minutes and do it yourself. The reason I do 34, when the car's been driven for a while and it warms up, tire pressure goes up to about 36. A lot of you guys are going to say, oh, that's too high. No, that's what you need to be right now with all the potholes and broken highways and roads around here. If you were to deflate these tires down to 30 or 32 PSI and you start hitting some of these impacts, I am going to guarantee you're going to blow out your tire and you're going to bend or crack your wheel almost instantaneously, okay? Now, this is just something that I've been doing my whole life, from driving around here and living and coping with all this BS in the Northeast. So that's number 2. You got to maintain your tire pressure, you know, and check it regularly. Don't rely on the TPMS gauges. Now, another thing, this car, not the entire car, but the engine does not like the below freezing temps, no matter what. Whether it's 20 degrees out, whether it's 10 below, this car does not like it. Now, a couple of things that I'll point out and I'll discuss here is the car sometimes will struggle to start in the below freezing temps, and that's just normal. I think it's because of the high compression. You know, what happens with all the fluids in the car, especially oils. In the high temperatures, they thin out, they become their normal viscosity. In the below freezing temps, they get thick, they become sludge. That could also impact the starting capabilities of a lot of high performance cars that have very tight tolerances and a high compression motor like this one. So that's something that I noticed as well. Another thing, you have to start the car and let it warm up. Do not, and I tell you this, never start the car up and wait 30 seconds before you pull out and go anywhere. What I've noticed, and I've noticed it since the beginning of the winter on this car, and not just my car, but other customers that have the same car, the car will stall, okay? The engine does not like to be driven or have a load on it when the cylinder head temps are below 150 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit and your oil temps are below 100 degrees. That's just a given. So what I usually do, I start it up and I wait. I make sure my oil temp gets well over 100, cylinder head between 150 to 175. I never ever pull out of the garage or out of the driveway or out of the back lot at my office until that's done. That's because the car is going to get erratic, it's going to start idling crazy, and it's going to stall. It's going to stall repeatedly every time you go into first gear and try to clutch it. And it's just common. I've tested this on 6 other cars. It does the same thing. The car just doesn't like the super cold temps. So that's what a lot of guys were asking. Hey, can you drive this car all year round? Yes, but you have to take into consideration a couple of these things I'm going to tell you about here. Now, another thing I want to tell you about is when there's water anywhere in this car, whether you're driving through rain, you're going to wash the car, power wash it, whatever you do, and then the temperatures are going to drop. There's a couple of things that I picked up on. Number one, the emergency brake on the rear rotors, the internal drum assembly, squeals like crazy. And I've taken them apart and I figured it out. There is ice that builds up inside there, okay? Whether it's slush, it's snow, or it's just ice. What I usually do when that happens, if you hear a squeal, it's always going to be at a very low speed, usually local or pulling out of your driveway. What I usually do, I just take the e-brake lever and I just pull it up gently a couple of times and it goes away. Okay, just to break that up and give a little bit of heat and friction inside the internal drum assembly of the rear brake rotor. And that's something else. Another thing I want to talk about, when you're driving this car in the snow, always keep the suspension in normal mode. Never put it in sport mode, never put it in track mode. You never want to have the chassis of this car, even though it's got a wide footprint, it's got a good grip, but it has a lot of power, you never want to have this car too stiff. And that's what I noticed on my S550 Mustang for 3 years. With the aftermarket stuff, it felt great in the dry. As soon as it got wet out, or as soon as the temperatures dropped, the car was all over the road. You need to have the chassis of the car articulate and balance the grip and the weight. Okay, that's just a given, and that's just common sense. So if you're gonna get in the car in the snow, that's just what you gotta do. Also, I don't recommend ever using winter mode. And if you go back on my channel, you see some videos of me driving in the snow. I turn everything off. I like to control the chassis of the car, and I'm so used to this car that I know what it's gonna do and what it's not gonna do. My suggestion to anybody that has this car, or an S550 Mustang, or any performance car, next time it snows, make sure you got the winter tires on the car, make sure you're prepared. Go to a empty parking lot, whether it's at a shopping center, whether it's at a local school that's closed, and just go in the lot and just start to turn everything off, turn all the driver's aids off, and start to balance out the power delivery, the grip, the understeer, the oversteer. Just get it comfortable with the car. That's what you want to do. Because when you're in an emergency, whether you're coming home from work, and all of a sudden now you're coming through a snowstorm, you'll have that confidence already built up. And that's what you guys really need. So, like I said, suspension mode in normal, I turn everything off or leave the driving mode in normal, okay? And then on the steering wheel, you can play around with the suspension. If you want to put it in sport, you want to put it in track, you could dial back the suspension setting so it softens it up, so you will get a little bit of body lean and a little bit more compression as you're going through, you know, any turns or whatever. But you guys can see, I mean, the roads, just from the camera, the roads are destroyed. Now, another thing I'll tell you guys too is the ride quality significantly is harder in the winter. And there's two things for that, two reasons for that. And this I've noticed on other cars that I've owned with magnetic rod control. Think about this. Inside the shock absorbers, there is a magnetically charged oil, okay? And like I said, when the fluids get too damn cold, because the shock body, if the exterior temperature of the car is minus 15 and the shocks are made out of metal, what do you think the internal temperature is going to be of the oil? It's going to be damn cold. And I've noticed that it takes about an hour to 2 hours of driving around for the piston inside the shock to go up and down and cycle so many times for everything to just loosen up and have the magnetic ride control feel normal again. And I'm talking about like really extreme below freezing temps. It's not going to do it when it's like 40 degrees, but anything below 20 degrees, these are things that I've noticed. So don't be alarmed if that's the issue. Now, another thing is you're going to notice a lot more rattles on the interior just because of the nature of the hard plastics and everything in this car. That's whether you're in a Ford, whether you're in a BMW, I don't care what car you're going to be in. That's just the nature of it. You know, the winter, all the components in the car are going to become very rigid. Just like the fluids, the hard plastics are going to also become very rigid. They're going to rub together, and you're going to start hearing stuff more. Don't go crazy with that. I mean, if you want, when it warms up, you can go through the car and do some of the repairs that I have on my channel about fixing squeaks and rattles and all that. But like I said, it's just the nature of the beast. Every car is going to do it. Another thing too, I noticed that the suspension in the front of the car makes a clunk, usually when the steering is at full lock, going over a bump or a dip, you know, whether you're parking or going through a sharp turn. And I've traced it down. I put the chassis ears on the car and I traced it down. It's coming from the front sway bar end links. And like I said, it's just one of those things that it happens when it's cold. As soon as the car is driven for a couple of hours, the noise goes away, it's gone. So, you know, like I said, these are just a few minor things you guys were asking me about. It's a lot easier to just make this quick video than to respond to like 75 people that email me about this. So these are the couple of things that you should just know about. You can drive this car all year round, but you know, just taking into consideration these couple of little nuances that I picked up on. And then the final thing, like I said, you know, I do a lot of wash and detailing things on my channel. I highly suggest to take care of the car. Don't let the salt sit on the car for weeks at a time. Find the touchless wash. Even if you have to drive 45 minutes, just do it. Get it done. Power wash it. Even if you have to buy a cheap electric one, just get the crap off the car and get a good coating on the car. Whether you're going to do a ceramic coating, you're going to do a sealant, you're going to do, you know, a good Caranuba paste wax like I recommend. Because what happens is when you go to get gas anywhere and it's freezing out, the gas station attendants are usually in big puffy jackets. You know, they're cold. They don't want to be outside. You don't want to be outside. They're going to rub up against your car. And when they rub up against the driver's side of your car or the passenger side, depending on what car you own, they're going to scratch the car. They're going to put microficial scratches in the clear coat of the car. So keep the car clean. Don't trash it. And take that into consideration. If you care about the paint, make sure it's protected. And always think in the back of your mind, every time you go get gas, whether you do it yourself, because you could do it as well, you could be pumping the gas and you could turn around with a jacket on that has a zipper or something hanging off of it, and boom, now you just scratched your car unintentionally. So, hope you guys like this quick video on driving the Shelby GT350 throughout winter. We're going into the 4th month of winter in February 2018 in New York. winter has been kicking our ass. It absolutely sucks. The car looks fantastic. There is no corrosion. There's no issues whatsoever. I have not gotten stuck with this car. It has never let me down yet. But like I said, taking into consideration everything I told you in the video, let the car warm up, you know, take care of the tire pressure, keep a safety kit in the trunk of your car. Don't be alarmed about the squeaks and rattles that you're hearing from the plastic. And always maintain the car, the exterior of the car, with a layer of protection, just to prevent you guys from scratching it along the way. So any questions or comments, post it below. Hope this video helps a lot of you guys out that are on the fence, whether you want to buy this car, whether you think you can drive it all year round, you know, whether you have a bad winter or not. But I'll tell you right now, this car is perfectly fine all year long. Just take a couple of precautionary steps along the way, be responsible, and you know, keep it safe. See you guys soon. autofanatic@yahoo.com. Take care, guys.